Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show, and I'm your host, Skip Coryell, author of 22 books, Marine Corps veteran, founder of the Second Amendment March, proud father of 7, grandfather to 19 and counting, and as a special bonus, I'm also madly in love with my own wife. My priorities in life are God, family, and country, in that order, and I hereby promise to never compromise in my convictions. I may go broke, but I'll never go woke. And joining me today is my faithful co-host, my adoring wife, Sara Coryell. Sara, talk to me about minimalism. What is that?
Well, apparently that's the cool new word for getting rid of stuff you don't need anymore.
How do you determine what you don't need anymore?
Yeah, that seems to be the magic trick. So I went on YouTube, the place where we learn everything, and yeah, they're helping me go through those files of like mementos from my kids that I have been going, I need to make that smaller for years and been afraid to touch it. And
are you throwing away my stuff?
Your stuff? I haven't got to your box yet. That's up next.
Okay. Do me a favor and don't throw away my stuff, okay?
Well, then you'll have to do it for me.
I'll see what I can do. So, folks, my wife is going minimal in the most maximum way possible. You know, if it's not nailed down to the ground, she's throwing it away.
Not true. Our house is full of stuff, but I want some room to wiggle.
How much can you wiggle? Oh my! She's throwing away all of my stuff. Don't touch the gun stuff. Don't touch the hunting stuff. Okay?
Shall I tell them how many clothes you really have?
No. It's not for public consumption.
Okay, then.
All right, Sara, what's on the Home Defense Show today?
Well, today we're talking with retired Border Patrol agent Gil Maza from Arizona to discuss violence against ICE and the Border Patrol. Then, in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, we'll be talking with firearms instructor Steve Sulze from Missouri, where we get some expert advice on using karate against an armed robber.
But before we get too far into the show, let's thank our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Apple Tree Media. All right, Sara, start out with the news. We've got so much news. It's just overwhelming. What's that? It's kind of like drinking from a fire hose, all right?
Yeah.
So you have a selection there. What do we have today?
Well, today we get to focus on Western diet and it getting blamed for growing risk of GI cancers among young adults.
I picked this for you, you know.
This is a really interesting story.
Yeah, I knew you'd be interested in it. Folks, she's like on this health kick, right? For about 15 years now. You know, eating, you know, if it's green, she'll eat it. Not necessarily mold, but, you know, leafy things, anything made out of leaves, she'll eat. Grass, stubble,
not
you know,
good. Grass, not
whatever.
Good. Sorry.
All right. And she tries to get me to eat it too. But
it is good for you. Well, here, let's read about it.
So are meat and potatoes. Meat and potatoes are better. But all right, go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt.
Okay. The rates of gastrointestinal cancers, or GI cancers, are rising among young adults, with a new peer-reviewed study pointing to the American diet and lifestyle as the primary culprits. The rising risk in younger generations may be linked more to environmental factors than genetics, stated the report, which was recently published in the British Journal of Surgery. Some shared risk factors for early onset of GI cancer include obesity, sedentary lifestyle, excessive alcohol consumption, and smoking. Lead researcher Sara, MD of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston, told Fox News Digital. The study notes that recent generations are more likely to adopt a Western pattern diet and a sedentary lifestyle. Colorectal is the most common type of early onset GI cancer, but pancreatic, esophageal, gastric, biliary, appendiceal, and neuroendocrine cancers are also rising in adults under 50, Shar noted. Adults born in 1990 have twice the risk of colon cancer and 4 times the risk of rectal cancer compared to those born in 1950, that's 40 years earlier. according to a previous study published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute.
You know, I just went to the doctor, what was that, like
Tuesday
8 days ago, something like
Yeah,
that?
okay.
And I was amazed at what he told me, the changes. It's like, you don't remember this, but the food pyramid back in like 1965
Okay.
was like meat and potatoes. I just loved it. Meat, eggs, poultry, cheese, dairy. And then for like 40 years, it was like, eggs are bad for you. Eggs are from the devil. Eggs are going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to the doctor for my annual checkup, and he asked me, he says, well, what'd you have for breakfast? I said, well, bacon, sausage, and eggs. And he says, yeah, that sounds good. You keep doing that. And I thought,
Where did you come from?
What do you mean, keep doing that? I expected him to chew me out. And I said, okay, why are you telling me this is okay now? And he said, well, for the last 20, 30 years, we in the medical community have steered you wrong. Basically he came short of apologizing,
Wow.
but he said, we told you all those things were bad for you, but that was basically a setup by the food industry to get you to eat certain things and not eat other things so that they could make more money.
Amazing.
And it's like, that coupled with, COVID, it's like, how am I supposed to trust my doctor if they're not telling me the truth? Granted, I mean, this guy, he was telling me the truth after the fact.
Right.
And even when he wasn't telling me the truth, he was well-meaning, he was well-intentioned. He was just parroting what he was being taught.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, in my opinion, it just doubles down on the fact that you have to do your own study and your own research. And you have done a lot of that, Sarah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I kind of had to.
I mean, I'm still not eating all that green stuff, but you might be onto something.
I was really sick. And whatever I ate just seemed to, my body was just rejecting it. And there was an increasing amount of foods that I just couldn't figure out. I would eat them and then I would be in so much pain or have digestive problems of all sorts. And it was a nightly thing to have horrible gut pain. And after I had my third child, it really came to a crisis point and I needed help.
You had to do a lot of research, and you did. But folks, unfortunately, she thinks that I have to eat that way too, which of course is totally wrong. I mean,
I don't think I'm pushy about it. I kind of figure, the canary in the mine,
in the coal mine,
concept. I really feel like I'm just super sensitive to the same things that other people also have problems with. It's just that I am so sensitive, I can't ignore it, and so
I
scouting,
agree.
as you might say.
Okay, well, how does
Do you want me to finish this article?
All right, so Sarah, finish the article. How does diet impact the risk of all of this?
Okay. Paul Oberstein, MD, director of the Gastrointestinal Medical Oncology Program at NYU Langone's Perlmutter Cancer Center, told Fox News Digital that a person's diet does indeed impact the risk of colon cancer. It is reported from previous studies that when someone has a higher amount of foods typical of a Western diet, they have a higher risk of colon cancer, said Oberstein, who was not involved in the research. A Western diet typically includes a higher intake of red and processed meats, processed and added sugars, and highly processed and refined grains, according to the oncologist. Younger individuals can take preventative measures such as not smoking, avoiding excessive alcohol, limiting red meat consumption, staying physically active, and maintaining a healthy body weight. Okay, I just want to say, I had a beef with this final conclusion on this article. The very last paragraph. Okay, we're going to just note what he says. He says, Western diet typically includes higher intake of red and processed meats, notice processed, processed and added sugars, and highly processed and refined grains, according to the oncologist. Okay, so in all three cases, red meat or no, he's talking about processed things in all three cases. Okay, but then down here when they say their final conclusion on what you should do, they're like smoking, excessive alcohol, okay, those weren't even on the list, and red meat consumption. Okay, yeah, red meat was, but especially when it's processed.
Yeah.
Staying physically active, again, that actually wasn't on the list, although it probably is included. And then maintaining a healthy body weight, again, not Like, the conclusions don't match the information that they just provided. My takeaway is all three things that they said had processed stuff in it. Don't eat processed stuff.
Don't eat processed anything.
Right.
Because that's where they modify the food. They add stuff that really shouldn't be there.
Or they cook it at crazy high temperatures. That oil, oh my goodness, what they do to the oil and then try to feed it to us.
Well, we eat a lot of red meat, tons of red meat.
Lean.
But it's almost all venison.
Lean and wild fed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and fish whenever
I'm grateful that
I
we have
can catch them.
Access to that, right? That's you that do that. A lot of people can't do that, though. I mean, if a lot of families don't have access to that, so...
Well, they harder. Can. It's easier for us because we set our life up that way, with our own property and hunting and all of that stuff.
Well,
but
and you don't...
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time.
It's like for you, all you see of all the work I put into hunting is, honey, I'll be back after dark. And then I go away and then I come back, right? You don't see, how I'm out there, I'm patiently waiting, or I'm slogging through the brush, or I'm laying on my belly, or, you're getting rained on or snowed on or whatever. It is a lot of work. And I understand why people don't want to do that. But, hey, I'm doing it for my family.
Also, you can raise livestock that, like, if you free range your livestock, if you can do that, that might be a little more attainable for people who have to work in an office and then come home at night and just don't have it in them to go and trek the woods afterwards. I mean, that's...
Yeah. Well, you folks might be thinking, hey, I'm a gun guy. I want to talk about guns. And we will. But this is the Home Defense Show. We're talking about how to provide for your family. And that's hunting is one of the things that I do to give them good meat. And you need to be researching this because you just can't trust the American Medical Association or the food industry or the big pharma. You can't trust all of those people blindly because they'll put you in an early grave. So you got to do your own research and you got to do the work to give your family good, healthy, clean food because, we're a sum total of what goes inside us. All right. Well, hey, let's go to the hero of the week, Sarah. Who is our hero?
All right. Our hero is an armed citizen who halted a brutal stabbing outside a mall in Orlando.
Oh, brutal stabbing is good.
He halted it. Yeah. It was good.
Yeah. Good. How'd he do it?
According to police reports, witnesses described seeing the victim running from a red Tesla while being chased and repeatedly stabbed.
See, I got to stop. Was the Tesla on fire?
I don't think so.
I'm sorry, folks, she doesn't watch the news. Radical, far-left, liberal wackos have been setting Teslas on fire to protest Elon Musk.
I thought they liked Teslas so that we could have electric cars.
They used to before Elon Musk endorsed President Trump.
But,
now they hate Teslas.
But I thought Elon Musk and President Trump were having a little spat now.
Yeah, but this was before that.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, now they like Teslas again?
Who knows? They're crazy. Who knows what crazy people think?
Well,
all right, continue, please.
Okay, so anyways, this isn't about the Tesla, folks. Sorry. So there's a victim running from a Tesla being chased and repeatedly stabbed by a man later identified as John. One of the bystanders on scene, a legal concealed carrier, drew his pistol, chambered around, and pointed it at the attacker. He ordered John to back away from the woman. The armed citizen's actions worked. John stopped the assault and fled the scene in his Tesla. "The problem is with her, not you," John reportedly told the armed witness before driving away. Multiple people at the scene immediately rendered aid to the victim while others called police. Following a search, authorities tracked John down the next day at a Wawa gas station in Longwood.
There's a Wawa gas station?
Maybe it's Indian. I don't know. I'm not familiar with Florida Indian.
Give me some Wawa. Fill it up with Wawa Premium there. All right, go ahead.
I'm sure it means something good. He attempted to flee on foot, but was quickly apprehended by law enforcement. He was booked into the Seminole County Jail and is currently being held without bond. John is facing multiple charges, including attempted second-degree murder, aggravated assault, and resisting arrest without violence. Police believe John and the victim were previously in a dating relationship that had turned violent. They met in the mall parking lot shortly before the attack occurred. Surveillance footage confirms the two sitting in the Tesla before the woman suddenly fled the car, covered in stab wounds and screaming for help. This incident serves as a sobering reminder of why the right to carry matters. A legally armed bystander didn't go looking for a fight. He stopped one. His quick, courageous action likely prevented a homicide that night. The wounded woman was immediately transported to Orlando Regional Medical Center and is now in stable condition. The extent of her injuries was described by officers as multiple lacerations across her body, but thanks to fast medical response and a brave armed witness, her life was spared.
That's warm and fuzzy.
It is.
Brutal stabbing, guns.
I just love that the witness was brave enough to just jump right in there and not just standing there gape-mouthed. You know, he jumped right into the middle of the scene and brought his gun there.
Yeah.
And then, kind of like in our story last week, this woman, she didn't just give up either. I mean, she's being overpowered by a guy who's huge and strong and dangerous. But like the woman in the story last week, she just kept screaming and fighting and trying, so that it gave people a chance to realize she needed help and to come to her aid.
Well, yeah, because us big, strong guys, we might be well-intentioned, but if you're not yelling and screaming or running away, we don't know that anything's wrong.
She could have just died right there in the car.
Yeah,
but she
could
fights
have.
for it. Yeah.
Because those Teslas, sometimes they just burst into flames all by
Oh, for
themselves.
goodness sakes.
Well, I have one improvement this guy could have made. It said here...
Which guy?
The good guy.
Okay.
He drew his pistol, chambered around, and pointed it at the attacker. Keep a round in the chamber, okay? Because most of the time, you don't have time to chamber a round, okay? There are a lot of scenarios where you just don't have time. And I understand why people do that. They don't trust themselves to be safe. But, get safe, chamber around, be cocked, locked, ready to go to work. But, in this case, it didn't matter. And he did a really, really good job. And he saved the girl.
He did.
Did they get married and live happily ever after?
Yeah, that's not really included in this.
It doesn't say?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Maybe that'll be in a subsequent article.
Yeah, maybe.
And then they'll make a movie out of it.
Oh, man, that'd be a good movie. That would be good.
That would.
Maybe we should write a book about it and start with that.
Do we know this the hero's name?
No, it wasn't in the article.
We hardly ever know the hero's name, which I guess is okay. They want their privacy and all of that, so...
It's kind of a show of humility,
well,
too.
Whoever you are in Orlando, you are the Home Defense Show Hero of the Week. Go out there and save somebody else. All right, Sarah, what's coming up next on the Home Defense Show?
Next, we're talking with retired Border Patrol agent Gil Maza from Arizona, discussing violence against ICE and the Border Patrol. Then, in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, we'll be speaking with firearms instructor Steve Sulze from Missouri, where we will get some expert advice on using karate against an armed robber.
In the meantime, God bless and stay safe, and watch out for those exploding, burning Teslas.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
Attention business owners. Are you leaving your website open to security issues and hacking due to a lack of maintenance or overseas outsourcing? Don't let that happen to your business. Choose experienced U.S.-based website developers that can customize your website to fit your specific needs. Appletree MediaWorks has been growing businesses online since 2009. With over 80 years of combined experience, their team conducts constant research and development to keep up with ever-changing online threats. Your website deserves the best protection available. Call Appletree MediaWorks today at 877-977-1364 to keep your website secure and grow your business online. Or visit appletree.media.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.
Liberals hate him, small children fear him, but God keeps on loving him anyway. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. Folks, we live in a dangerous world, and I want you to be able to protect and defend the ones you love. And that's why I have this show. It's my way of empowering you to accomplish one of your primary jobs in life. You are a protector and a defender. All right, listeners, before we get too far into the show, don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, ShootingClasses.com, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range, and Appletree Media. Without our sponsors, this show wouldn't be on the air, so we thank you all. And now I'd like to welcome a friend of mine back to the show. He's retired Border Patrol agent and Marine vet, Gil Maza. Gil, welcome back to the Home Defense Show.
Hey, good morning, Skip, or good afternoon for you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're there. You're deep inside the bowels of Southern California, aren't you?
Oh, well, they're the most beautiful bowels you can imagine, but they are bowels right now, politically.
Yes, I know. I've only been in California one time, and that was, well, actually twice, and both it was with the Marine Corps. So I wasn't really out mixing with the public. And back then, in like 1970s, it wasn't near as crazy as it is now.
Did you get to visit our beautiful Hill Street that was called at the time? I mean, now it's called the Pacific Coast Highway, but back in the day it was called Hill Street, and it was our version, or the closest version to Bourbon Street we could get.
Oh, actually, I didn't know the name of the street, but I did walk down this street that was quite seedy. And, being from the farmlands of Michigan, I saw some things that I'm still trying to get out of my mind. Is that what you're talking about?
Most likely, yes.
Yes.
We'll leave that for another show.
Yeah, talk about, being propositioned. It's like, man,
Yeah.
I could not believe it, but I was glad to safely make it to my motel room.
Yeah, without buying a used car or a prostitute?
Yes, something like that. Well, actually, there's a bit of a story there. I mean, when I got back to my motel room,
Mm-hmm.
I walked up to the door and I just tried to open it. And this was before they had electronic locks, right? And it
Yeah.
was locked from the inside. And I said to my buddy, I said, why can't I get inside my motel, my door? And he said, because, Rivera is in there with a woman. And I said, whose bed is he in?
Oh, that's your first thought.
It was mine. That was my indoctrination into the FMF, the Marine Corps.
Well, we get taught that from boot camp, don't we?
Oh yeah. Hey, I slept on the floor that night just because I don't know. But hey, we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about other forms of graft and corruption.
Absolutely.
First, tell everybody, take about 60 seconds and tell them about your background so they know you're not just some other Fuddrucker bopping down under the bridge.
Not just another jarhead. Well, the first thing is I'll say is that I'm a retired U.S. Border Patrol agent. I worked for the Border Patrol for 25 years. I've been happily married for 41 years now. My wife's only been happy for the last four, but that's another story. I am a strong believing Christian and conservative, and this last 4 years under the Biden administration has been quite a fight for us. But the work's just starting.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, there's been a lot in the news this past week, especially about violence against ICE agents and Border Patrol agents. And I don't know. Here's my view, and then I want to get your take on it. My
Okay.
view is ICE agents, Border Patrol agents, they're like police officers, right?
Well, we're a little bit better in the sense of, higher up the chain. We're federal law enforcement. We're federal agents. So our jurisdiction isn't just in whatever town or city we're in or state. We have jurisdiction across the country.
Yeah. Yeah. But I guess the point I want to get at is there's been all kinds of violence against ICE agents and Border Patrol agents. And, I'm looking at an article right now. California medical staff assault ICE agents trying to arrest illegal immigrant, DHS says. And I don't know. It's like I would never walk up to a police officer, lay hands on him, and push him away and try to stop him from making an arrest. If I did that, the outcome is predictable. I'd be body slammed, maced, I'd be tased, I'd be put in
Yes.
handcuffs, I'd be arrested and put in jail for obstruction of justice, wouldn't I?
Well, that is conventional wisdom, which you and I both know that this generation was not brought up on conventional wisdom, right? We have a generation starting from the Obama administration that basically gave permission to this entire, generation to act out in the worst ways possible with absolutely no consequences, right? We saw riots, we saw looting, we saw crime sprees. They literally took over a city in Seattle, and the media just gaslighted the entire country, saying it was peaceful, there is no rioting, it's all peaceful, even though we're watching the city burn before our eyes. And now basically they suffered no consequences. So now every single time that they get upset, or the policy, they don't like the policies of this administration, they feel they can go out and act like this with impunity. Have you seen the
Yeah.
video, Skip, on TikTok and all over the place? American citizens look, cops pull them over for speeding, cops pull them over for reckless driving, and they say, I don't have to give you my license, I don't have to answer your questions. Just get done with it, and and let me get on my merry way. I'm not driving, I'm traveling. Just utter nonsense. They are not afraid of law enforcement anymore.
Yeah. Well, I see a danger in that. Typically, it's like I'm reminded of uh, the latter days of the Roman Empire, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's where, culturally they broke down, morally they broke down, law and order broke down, and it wasn't long before the barbarian hordes from the north, the Goths, the Visigoths, the Franks, all of them came down from the north, and they just feasted on what was left of the Roman Empire. And, in their wake, they brought anarchy, chaos, death,
Yeah.
destruction. I see that could happen here if we don't stop this.
Well, Skip, it sounds to me like you got a good, well-rounded education in history, but the Democrats, the liberals, have been trying to erase history, right? To the point where they peaked at Hitler. Everything to them is Hitler, 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 Hitler. And the Third Reich and Nazis, that's about as far as they got in history. They never went, studied all especially socialism, right? They think that they have a version of socialism now that's actually going to work, when we know throughout history that it's all been tried and it all failed. but they don't have the self-awareness or wherewithal to think back and look at what happens when law enforcement and the rule of law degrades to this point. And we got a bunch of spoiled kids, don't we? I mean, it's the spoiled brats that aren't getting the attention they want with their utterly failing policies. Therefore, they have to act out, and to them, negative attention is just as good. And even today's liberal Democrat leaders and our congressmen and senators, they're not condemning violence. They're gaslighting us, saying it's not really happening. And number two, they're saying, well, you know what? If it moves the needle a little bit, then why not, right? Like demon kings sending out their hordes and watching them be killed, for the sake of the message, not caring. They couldn't care less about the lives that are lost or whatever anybody else does, because ultimately they want to see their agenda forwarded.
Yeah. Well, one thing that struck me is it's just brazen. It's blatant. It's brazen. The way these people disrespect legal, moral authority. I mean, if you don't have a border, you do not have a country. And man,
Correct.
it's terrible. Here's another article here. Immigration operation at California cannabis farms leads to clash between federal agents and protesters. And one of these ICE agents was shot at by one of these quote unquote protesters. And it's like, that's not First Amendment protesting. That's
No,
that's attempted murder.
yeah, that's correct. And that's the thing about that, right? So let's get one thing straight from the get-go. Every law right now being enforced by ICE, Border Patrol, CBP, DHS is on the books. They had 4 years to change the laws if they wanted to. All they did was Biden and Kamala worked their way around the law to open the floodgates. And I love, Skip, the fact that after we destroyed the nuclear program in Iran, now the leftists are worried about sleeper cells that might be when we literally imported a third world country, an entire third world country full of terrorists that we're suspected, special interest aliens and people from Iran. And at the time, they could care less because their people were in charge. But now the chickens are coming home to roost. And like I said, you would never think of attacking a law enforcement officer in the performance of their duties. But you got two dynamics going on here. Number one, you got police officers now that, I mean, I don't understand who wants to be a cop right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go to jail, you could get civilly sued, you could be ran through the ringer. Now they are literally doxing, right? Revealing the addresses of all these ICE agents. And the big cry is, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, take off your masks. Well, I say you do the same then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. They're all wearing masks, and now it's acceptable to wear a mask unless you're an ICE
Unless,
agent.
correct.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well, I know that if I were to walk up to a cop and kick him in the leg or throw a brick at him, and it was just me, I would be arrested. I'd be tased, I'd be handcuffed, I'd go to jail, and rightly so. But
Yes.
the dynamics change when there are 100 or 200 of these violent people coming after the police officers, because they're limited in what they can do. Unless they're willing to pull out their guns and start shooting these people, what are they supposed to do other than fall back and retreat and call in reinforcements and do the tear gas thing and all of that stuff? I do not see this ending well, Gil.
Well, and it's not. And I've had to reread your civilian combat book just to keep my head straight, because right now, the way things are going, could you imagine, Skip? Could you imagine if they woke up the sleeping dragon and the Republican and the conservatives, who, by the way, right, there's about 430 million guns in this country, mostly owned by conservatives. If we decided to do the same thing they're doing, right? Because to them, it's justified, right? The ends justify the means. Well, God help them the day we decide that we're not going to put up with it anymore, and and cause this civil disobedience ourselves. But we're not, right? Because we're law abiding, God fearing, law abiding citizens. And these guys, I mean, my God, I said, don't you guys have jobs? I mean, what do you do all day long? But I guess this is their paid job. If you look at
Yeah.
the sources of who's sourcing all this mayhem in this country right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, because they'll have things pre-positioned at all of these protest sites, like
Yes.
pallets of bricks, gas
Yes.
masks, things like that. That's not an organic protest. This is
No.
organized rebellion.
Yeah. Anybody that thinks that this is just grassroots efforts and and people, coming in that with their ideology, no, this is all pre-planned, pre-organized, and that's why they have to wear masks, right? This is the citizens that are out there thinking they believe that they really believe in they're doing the right thing. Don't care who sees them, doesn't care who knows about it. But these people, they are criminals and thugs. And unfortunately, Skip, we have the segment of our leadership that at one time, just a couple of years ago, Skip, used to say, illegal immigration is wrong, right? Tariffs, we're being destroyed by tariffs. And now the big boy with the big boy pants comes in and is actually, making adult decisions with adult solutions. And you and I both know that most adult solutions suck. Most
Yeah.
adult solutions come with hardship, heartache, and problems until you get past it. And, we've had decades of people kicking the can down the road. And now we have a president that says, nah, we're going to deal with it right now. If you just bite the bullet, put on your big boy underoos on, your Superman underoos, and let's get to work and get this country on the right track. And everything is moving in the right direction quicker than I even thought.
Yeah.
But this segment, right? The Democrats have no good policies, just failed ideologies that they keep doubling down and tripling down on, right? And I'll just say this. All they took from this last landslide election was we didn't message it right, and everybody else is just in a stupid, unenlightened knuckle dragger that just hasn't realized how smart we are and how good they would have it if they embraced our policies.
Yeah. It reminds me of a verse in the Bible says, "The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But I am
Hmm.
come that you might have life and have it more abundantly." That's all the thief has is destruction, death and destruction, mayhem, anarchy, chaos. That's all they have because that's what they're made out of. That's what their soul is. That's who they are at their crux and core of their being. And I just hope that Donald Trump and all of his allies, and I am one of his allies, I just hope that he sticks to it, sticks to his guns, and gets the job done. B- But you just never know what's going to happen.
Well, you referred to the fall of the Roman Empire, and the thing about it is that I don't believe there's anything in life that exists that is too big to fail, even the United States. And if we don't, we had a reprieve when Donald Trump got elected back into office. Now we need a spiritual ground roots reprieve of the morality of the United States, because God's not obligated to bless us to death and while we're sitting here disobeying him. And even God's own people, the Israelites, the majority of prophets that spoke against something was speaking against the rebellion of the Israelites, not the world, not the unbeliever, not anybody else. And so if we're going to, all of us here that know that this was a Christian nation, established a Christian nation from the beginning, if we know it's not enough that God is on our side, we got to get on his side. And if we don't see a moral shift, then why wouldn't we fail any more than the last 2,000 years of great empires failing? What makes us think we can't?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just our own hubris that would make us think that way.
Yes,
Um, there's definitely a spiritual element to this. And the Bible talks
100%.
about that too. If my people who are called by my name shall seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, humble themselves and pray, then I will hear their voice and I will heal their land. So there's a spiritual answer to this. And I really do believe that Donald Trump is a Christian, especially after his the assassination attempt, because he came out with more humility, and he just a more sense of fervency and urgency after that assassination attempt.
Yeah, the thing about it is too is that again, when you look at how he has succeeded, even beyond the people on his side that doubted, right? Doubted the tariff, situation, doubted the Iran situation. He finally did with Iran what needed to be done. He didn't send them $450 billion. He to fund their terrorism and to fund the war in the Middle East. He literally just shut them down for the time being. And what would Biden have done? What would have Kamala had done? So yeah, I agree with you that he's on, he is doing everything he needs to do, and even things we don't even know about right now, but because this country is divided by people that are either wanting change so that our kids can enjoy, while the Lord tarries, our kids can enjoy a country that they can have more than what we had right now. At least while Donald Trump's trying to rectify every bit of damage that Biden did, right now, our kids are not able to, at least at this particular moment yet, to be able to be more successful than us.
Yeah. Yeah, you are absolutely right. And now is the time to pray for the people in power. And you know what? I even pray for these people that are out there trying to tear our country apart. Some of them are, what did Lenin call them? Useful idiots.
Yeah, they're cannon fodder. They're cannon fodder for the Democrats, right? And that's I just wonder, Skip, do these people, have normal lives? They get up in the morning, they have their coffee, they get about their business, go to work, pay your bills. What are these people doing that they, when they can block people that need to get to work, that need to, feed their families and pay their bills, they can just stand on freeways and do this all day long? Well, because it has to be funded, and someone's paying these people to sit in their, right, to sit in their, in their parents' house, in the basement, fact checking, conservatives.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we could go on forever, except we are out of time. But before we go, Gil, tell people how they can find out more about all that you do.
Well, right now, I've not been as busy politically, and I took a little break after Trump got elected, but I'm starting to realize that was just the beginning. Right now, the real work begins to work this country. So I have my social media, Old Patrol HQ, on Facebook, on X, on Instagram, and on TikTok. I also my Old Patrol HQ website, where I sell a bunch of patriotic and law enforcement related trinkets, and mostly get into trouble with you and Colonel Gillum. But other than that, I appreciate the constant support, the encouragement I get from you guys, and I just want it for the record here, and even if the Colonel's listening, that I showed up on time for this one.
That's right, you did, Gil. You did. Well, and I have an Old Patrol baseball hat that you gave me, and I wear that out on the gun range with me in honor of you and all the work you do, Gil.
Well, I appreciate that very much, Skip. It has been getting to meet you and the Colonel has been a complete blessing to me, and I appreciate you.
All righty.
And keep writing, by the way.
I will do that. All right, thank you, Gil.
Thank you, brother.
All right, this is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Coming up next, we'll be speaking with self-defense instructor Steve Sulze from the great state of Missouri in the shootingclasses.com self-defense report, where we get some expert advice on the details of self-defense. But during the break, I want you to log into rumble.com and search on the Home Defense Show. I've posted a series of entertaining and educational videos there just for you. Check them out, and don't forget to like, share, and follow. God bless and stay safe, as we will be right back.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
At Center Shot Gun Range, we are passionate about training. Don't know where to start? We offer a 1-hour new shooter seminar to introduce you to the world of firearms and help you find training opportunities specific to you. Concealed carry, home defense, firearm safety, AR-15, private one-on-one training, custom training, or maybe you're on a security team looking to protect your church or business. We even offer weekday morning and evening classes. Center Shot Gun Range has you covered. Start your journey at centershotgunrange.com.
Firearms training should be easy. Instructors can focus on teaching and not worry about all the complex paperwork and management behind the scenes. Just pull the trigger and let us do the administrative work. Welcome to shootingclasses.com.
Attention business owners. Are you leaving your website open to security issues and hacking due to a lack of maintenance or overseas outsourcing? Don't let that happen to your business. Choose experienced U.S.-based website developers that can customize your website to fit your specific needs. Appletree MediaWorks has been growing businesses online since 2009. With over 80 years of combined experience, their team conducts constant research and development to keep up with ever-changing online threats. Your website deserves the best protection available. Call Appletree MediaWorks today at 877-977-1364 to keep your website secure and grow your business online. Or visit appletree.media.
Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If this sounds good to you, you sound good to me. And I'd like to help you do those things. Avoid danger, save lives, and keep your loved ones safe. If you're looking for more excitement in your life, we have nothing to offer you. But if you are a thoughtful, responsible, nonviolent man or woman, we'd love to teach you what to do if something crazy happens. More importantly, we'd like to teach you what not to do. We currently have over 500,000 members. They are doctors and single moms and firemen and grandmothers and veterans and Democrats and Republicans and members of every faith. But the one thing they all have in common is that they know exactly what to do if something crazy happens. When you're with one of our members, you are safe. Our members know how to de-escalate situations. They know how to calm things down. We are the United States Concealed Carry Association. See what we're all about at usconcealedcarry.com.
Discover the little-known backstory of the U.S. Concealed Carry Association at usconcealedcarry.com.
Some say his face is painfully ugly, and I agree. But who cares? This is radio. Welcome back to the Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
And that was the beautiful and sultry voice of Golden Glenn, the official announcer of the Home Defense Show. And I'm your host, Skip Coryell. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, United States Concealed Carry Association, shootingclasses.com, Appletree Media, and Center Shot Indoor Gun Range for all your training and equipment needs. And now it's time for our weekly self-defense report, sponsored by shootingclasses.com. And today we're speaking with self-defense instructor Steve Sulze from the great state of Missouri. Steve, thanks for coming back on the Home Defense Show today.
Of course. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Steve, before we launch into us, give us about, 20 seconds on your background here in self-defense.
Yeah, of course. So I've been training for a little bit over 20 years. Started in Krav Maga, and then that took me to mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu, which has led me into, getting certified as a post-certified law enforcement instructor. So, we train civilians, law enforcement, and military all across the country, in our defensive tactics system, which incorporates, those styles. And I've had my school for 16, almost going on 17 years here in St. Louis, Extreme Krav Maga. And we also have a firearms company, Extreme Tactical Defense. And kind of what we specialize in addition to the hand-to-hand, is integrating the two, the higher force option with the hands-on combative. So most civilian encounters, you're going to have to fight to be able to get to your gun or mace or taser or whatever it is that you carry. So we teach laws, use of force, decision making, obviously the hand-to-hand combat. And then the combination of where all of those things combined, you've got to be able to make decisions in and respond in a short period of time under stress. So that's kind of encompasses a full personal protection, training program.
Well, I like that concept of like a package deal instead of, hey, here's a gun, try not to shoot yourself. So
Right.
that's good. All right. Well, Steve, when I read this particular article, I immediately thought of you. I think you're uniquely qualified to comment on this. This takes place in the United Kingdom, and it is an armed robbery. So let me just walk the people through this, and then we'll get your analysis. Okay.
Sure. Yep.
All right. It says for most shoppers who have popped to their corner shop for a chocolate treat or some last minute ingredients for dinner, the appearance of an armed robber would be the stuff of nightmares. But that was not the case for Mari Karen, who was a fifth Dan karate black belt, as a gun toting villain was about to find out. As the 42-year-old medal winning Wadakai karate enthusiast, who is also proficient in Brazilian jiu-jitsu and boxing, bought some chocolates, a masked man came in and began threatening staff at local convenience store in Telford, Shropshire. Let me say that again. Shropshire. Say that 3 times fast. Without missing a beat, Mari leapt into action by grabbing the would-be thief's arm and delivered a couple of firm kicks to his shins. Dramatic CCTV captured martial arts expert Mari chasing the criminal from the shop before he ran away down the street. Her intervention helped to bring an end to a spree of 15 known similar offenses by the same gang over a period of only a couple of weeks, and saw the offenders charged with a total of 45 offenses and prison sentences totaling 18 years. All right, and then I'll skip down here because it's a very long article. She says, I thought it would be nice to surprise my nieces. So basically, she was in town and she was visiting. And when the guy walked up behind her, he said, as calm as anything, the voice behind me said what I thought was, because I am going to take your money. Unsure of this, but also acutely aware something was not quite right, I put my phone and keys away in my jacket pockets to free up my hands and listened more intently. In that second, I had so many things go through my mind, but strangely, it was all about the inconvenience of the situation. I haven't had time to joke with myself about it not being my best day. At no point did I consider what I was going to do about it. I had so much time, it was as if everything slowed down. As the shopkeeper stumbled over his words, the voice moved to my side, which gave me time to check him out. I knew instantly that he was carrying more than one weapon. As he answered back to the shopkeeper, again without shouting or swearing, he stepped forward, lifting the bag, and fumbled, trying to get out whatever it was in his left pants pocket. We would later find out a knife and a firearm were involved, but whatever was in the left pocket for that moment, it was not coming out. I did not know or have time to think about what I was going to do, but I was ready to take the opportunity should it present itself. When I saw his left hand still in his pocket, I took the chance. I grabbed his wrist closest to me, and once I had hold, I knew I was in control. As I let the kick go, I started to doubt whether I had read the situation correctly. I consciously slowed the kick down, but thankfully it was enough to make him run. I caught both his shins and had 2 bruises to show for it, but my new heels that I was breaking in for the job meant I couldn't run after him, which in hindsight was probably a good thing. All right, that's basically what happened with some details. What's your initial reaction to that, Steve?
It's always, when we always, I always say this, just almost as a preface when we do these articles, it's easy to, armchair quarterback these things because we weren't there, right?
Right.
But what we teach, in my system and my school, in a situation like that, we're going to comply. We're going to try to disengage up until the point of where we feel that we can't, or things are getting worse. Because at the end of the day, obviously this could have gone a totally different way. Most of the times in these types of violent encounters, sometimes just creating some type of monkey wrench in their plan, whether that be verbal, physical, or some type of denial of what they're trying to do, will sometimes end the situation. But there's plenty of videos out there where people try to fight back, they still get shot, they still get stabbed, they still get kidnapped, whatever it might be. So always we want people to comply, till, like I said, till they can't. If they're asking for keys, money, whatever, all that shit can be replaced, but your life can't. From there's not much you can see in the video, but from the article, it sounds like she did what we call like stuffing the draw. So we actually teach that where, if we see a threat going towards their waistband, 9 times out of 10, that's where most people, good and bad, carry their weapons. If you're a concealed carry holder or, a thug or whatever, the weapons are going to be around the waistband. So when you see them start to pull back their shirt or dig their hands, in their hoodie or pockets, or their hands won't come out of their pockets, that's also, a sign that they've got a weapon. So it sounds like she basically got like two on one wrist control. On the video, she threw kind of like a half-ass kind of like round kick, to his legs. And that was enough where he's like, all right, I'm out of here, and didn't want to mess with it. What we would teach, we actually teach gun defenses, but it doesn't sound like the gun was actually out. So our principle for gun defenses is RCAT, RCAT, redirect the line of fire, control the weapon, attack, and then if possible, go for a takeaway. But the takeaway is a luxury. And in this scenario, it doesn't appear that the weapon was out, at this point. She was kind of just assuming that he had a weapon and he was demanding things. So I would say it's a good response. She tried to get control and throw some combatives. Kicks to the shin, aren't damaging. And then seeing the picture of these two criminals, they look like little twerps. So that probably did hurt them because they look very, not tough at all. But to someone else that may be under the influence on drugs, alcohol, combination of those things, they wouldn't even have felt that. And that potentially could have gotten worse, so we're always big on striking, to sensitive areas, face, knees, groin, temple, jaw, things like that. So, but she took action, and, you have to give her credit for doing that, because again, we don't know if the gun could have come out and then someone, could have lost their life. So, kudos to her for taking action. I feel like she had a little bit of an overconfidence, how she kind of just strolled back in, and she even mentioned running after the attacker. Never do that, because now you become a willing participant, and if you have to re-engage, you can't claim self-defense any longer. And that's a pretty important thing that a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, actually, I agree with everything that you said. There were a couple of things that really stood out to me. One, she was wearing high heels, which and so at your dojo there, do you teach high-heeled combat, or do you forego that?
We teach foot stomps, but again, a foot stomp hurts. But like if you've ever watched a UFC fight, they're barefoot, and they work. Foot stomps are legal, and you can take some really good foot stomps. The thing with teaching a woman, well, of course, we want them to use the tools that they have available to them. But it's almost a fine motor skill, where if they'd be trying to go for a foot stomp with a high heel, to someone else's foot, like that foot's, the attacker's feet have to be static and not moving, which is a lot of times very rare, especially if there's some type of scuffle over a weapon or an altercation. They're going to be moving as you're going to be moving. So it's easy to train it in class. We don't spend a lot of time on it. We give it as an option. But again, it's not a go-to, because I could stand next to you, stomp on your foot as hard as I want. It's going to hurt, but it's not going to end the fight. As to where, that's where like I said, we try to focus on more debilitating attacks, that you break someone's nose, which, bloodies their nose, clogs their sinuses, they can't breathe, eyes start watering, you hyperextend someone's knee, you send their groin up to their chin, you eye gouge, you hit the what we call the button, their temple, get a knockout, their jawline. We want to inflict pain, but also damage. We need their central nervous system to start, taking notches down. And, like I said, you could sit there and foot stomp someone all day long. It's probably not going to end the fight.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it depends on who's delivering the stomp and who's receiving it, right?
For sure. And that's the crazy thing with self-defense, is you never know who you're going to fight in self-defense. So that's the difference between that and sport. In sport, it's going to be somewhat equal technical ability, equal, weight That's why there's weight classes, so there's some fair advantages there, on the street. It was a female versus this guy. But something else to consider too from self-defense versus, sport training is, it said that this was a gang. You don't know that this attacker is by themselves, but statistics show 56%, at least in America, 56% of civilian violent encounters, there is more than one attacker. So that's more than half. And so, this other guy could have been waiting outside. So something I would have liked to have seen, but this comes from the lack of self-defense tactics in sport training like karate, boxing, jujitsu. No what we call after action aftermath. So basically meaning like secure the scene, right? Lock the door, transition to some type of higher force option, secure the scene, put yourself in a position of advantage, like take cover. Obviously the call, either you're calling 911 or someone's calling 911 or you're directing them to call 911. And then if there's any injuries, you're treating casualty. So, all those different types of things need to be happening, because what could have stopped that guy from walking out to his car, grabbing a shotgun, walking in and blowing everybody's heads off? She just went back to the counter to finish her purchase. Like, that is not a good tactic. And that's the difference, because they don't learn that piece, in traditional sports and even traditional martial arts. Like karate doesn't teach that. And that's where good self-defense programs, I'm obviously biased towards ours. We teach things like that. We teach pre-incident indicators. So, where did this guy come from? Was he sitting out in his car? Like, could you have caught this guy sitting in his car or standing outside and looking sketchy before you even walked in, to this gas station or whatever it was? And then, as this person walks in, position yourself. Like, if you thought he was sketchy, why'd you let him get behind you? Like just those types of things. Now, you're not always going to catch on to those things, but, and again, don't know where her level of readiness was until the guy started engaging, the clerk. But those are things that you need to practice, because they're not just going to come out. And, she even said, I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't thinking. And that's the purpose of training, right? You're just going to respond and act. You don't have time to think when you have to defend yourself. You don't rise to the occasion. We always say in our industry, if you fall to your lowest level of training. And, she was a karate, which has a lot of kicks in it. And that's what she went to, right? So not saying that it was wrong. Were there better options? Sure. But, I still think it's good that she did something. She got away safe. But of course, until you're in that situation, nobody knows what they're going to do. And you can train with blue guns and stuff all you want and be proficient and good. But when that real barrel's pointed at you or that real threat, some people with training still may freeze. So.
Yeah. I see a lot of opportunities for this scenario to go the opposite direction. And one of the questions I had for you, it's like, okay, she was a fifth Dan black belt, and okay, that counts for something. It means you've been training for a long, long time.
Sure.
But I can see one of our listeners out there thinking, oh yeah, I've got my yellow belt and or my green belt or whatever, so I'm going to do the same thing. I guess that's one of the things that does make me feel warm and fuzzy about this scenario and the video. So can you talk to the average citizen about doing something like this?
Yeah, we do wear belts, in our facility, just to, for recognition, and it's a teaching tool, for instructors and things like that. But we also emphasize, the training is what's important. And, belts don't matter on the street, ranks don't matter on the street. The knowledge and the confidence that you have to execute what you need to do when you need to do it is important. And we have a saying where, we teach personal protection, but personal protection is personal. And what we mean by that is it's not up to us, as an instructor or a school, code of conduct to say, disarm every gunman, that happens, be the hero every time, or once you're at this level, you're approved to go fight these types of situations, right? Because we're not going to be there, and we're not going to be there to tell you one way or the other, if it's a good opportunity to go, and then tactically, morally, all those different types of things. So we try to tell people, like, if it makes the most sense, to act, do it. But a lot of the times, it's probably not going to be beneficial to do something. It can potentially make things worse. It's kind of like what they tell you when you're on a plane: put your mask on first before helping someone else. So meaning, if you go down in this situation, now you can't help anybody else. So don't make stupid decisions that's going to get you killed or make the situation worse. And it's almost counterintuitive to, like, well, why do we train to defend ourselves if we're not going to do something? But with that same logic, I tell people, well, why do you pay for car insurance and and home insurance? You don't intentionally ruin your home or crash your car just because you have insurance. It's for when things didn't go your way and now we need a backup, right? And it's the same thing with personal protection. Your insurance is your training. That I'm able to walk around in confidence. I'm able to see things sooner before not having any training, and potentially remove myself from these situations. I think smarter, to where I'm not going into certain areas, and places like that. Those attacks happen in, like, those transitional spaces and those convenience stores. So, like, one of the things we teach, and I personally do, when I go to pump gas, I think I've mentioned this on another one of your podcasts, I always drive past the front door, take a peek in, see what's going on. Is there anything sketchy going on in there? As I drive around all the pumps, I look, I kind of survey who are at the pumps. Anything looks sketchy there. And then I'm always parked on the outside. When I'm pumping gas, I'm facing the building, making eye contact with everybody else, because I've just seen so many videos, of when you're pumping your gas, people get into the passenger side and rob you. People sneak up from behind, and assault you. There could be a situation going on inside and you don't even know, because you're outside, on your phone or in another world, not even paying attention. So it's just putting those small habits into your daily life. We've talked about this previously on podcasts, like the Cooper's color code. White is oblivious. Yellow is just kind of having a consciousness of what's going on. We want to live somewhere in the yellow. We're not paranoid, but we just pay attention to noises. We make eye contact with people. We walk with, proud chest and with conviction. We're not towering our shoulders, and just all those things. Honestly, that takes care of like 80% of situations that you're ever going to find yourself in, just by doing those small things.
Yeah, I agree. One more question, Steve, before we wrap it up. Do you happen to know how often compliance works in a situation like this, an armed robbery, something like that?
I've got a statistics somewhere. I don't have that one memorized. And I definitely think it's contextual, whether it is like a one-on-one situation, if it's, obviously like an active shooter type situation, armed versus unarmed. I think there's different percentages of the type of response that happen, or the type of situation, and then the response. But I would say in general, compliance is definitely is a higher percentage of getting away unscathed than, fighting back. But again, using that logic, I think you are literally putting 100% of your trust into this criminal or criminals who have nothing to lose. And, so again, that's where I say, like, don't listen to an instructor who says, well, always defend yourself, always shoot first. because like that's not always going to be the right answer, right? Like the context, context dictates strategy. That's another saying that we use every day in class when people want to ask these questions, right? Like, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And self-defense is, we call it the gooey gray area, because a lot of what we deal with is all kind of based on perception of, the people who are judging you. If it goes to court, right, the jury's going to make certain decisions, and most of the people who are judging you, if not all, they've never taken training, they've never been in a life or death situation. So like, unfortunately, their judgment is kind of shit when it comes to these types of situations. So they're just looking at optics. Oh, well, this guy was 300 pounds. This woman was 100 pounds. Why would he have to defend himself against her, type of thing? Or, so like all those types of situations come in, and it's like, well, if this lady had a gun pointed at this larger gentleman, then, it doesn't matter like what size he was or whatever. Like that's a bad situation. And so yeah, I think that compliance again always is going to be key, but we need, I think it was Patton who said, be nice to everybody in the room, every person you meet, but have a plan to kill them also,
Yeah.
And that's kind of the concept, is treat everybody with kindness, go about your normal day, but always be ready, that anything could happen anytime. Evil is everywhere. Evil will always exist. And, I always, preach and try to get people to understand, situational awareness, preventative maintenance, pre-incident indicators. Those are going to be your best self-defense, and you will use that stuff, those things I mentioned earlier, more so than you're going to have to pull a gun and shoot someone, or throw a strike to defend. Like if it got that far, you screwed up a few moments earlier.
Yeah.
Now of course there's always ambushes and situations, but 80%, I would say 80% of the situations, you could have the ability to remove yourself from them or see them and identify them early on to be able to not have to engage in them.
Yeah. Yeah. All that makes sense to me. And that reminds me of that movie Roadhouse by Patrick Swayze, the
Great movie.
original one.
Yeah.
Yeah. He says, be nice until it's time to not be nice.
To not be nice. Exactly. And it's a great tactic because we teach bouncers when we train security and bouncers and things like that. We teach them with the same thing, because when hostility meets hostility, all that does is escalate the situation. Mm-hmm. And it's funny in class when we train people, and we do what we call timeline scenarios, where two people will start 20 feet apart, and then the antagonist is going to get closer to the protagonist. And a lot of times what happens is the antagonist closes that distance all the way till they're in their face. This is for beginners, right? Because the protagonist didn't realize that I needed to do something sooner. And now all of a sudden, the attacker is at range. They're at contact with your gun. You're too late to be able to escape and evade. So now you have to fight. But when you start to address the situation when the person's 20 feet away, you start to angle yourself. You start to flank them. You get in a defensive posture. Hey, my hands are up. Sorry, I can't help you. Now you're able to disengage from the situation, or at least do what we call fact finding, like figure out what are this person's intentions. And when someone engages you, like, hey, what's up, man? Or, hey, you got the time? Or give me, hey, you got $1, or I need directions. A simple open hands, kind of like a high five position, modified fighting stance. My fists aren't closed. My hands are just open. So I look in a defensive, but my posture will be good. I will be in a bladed, athletic position, ready to fight, ready to draw, ready to do what I need to do. But to the layperson, it doesn't look aggressive. And and we teach a simple phrase: I'm sorry, I can't help you. So it's serious enough to let them know I mean business. But it's also nice enough to not escalate the situation like, hey, F you, man, I don't have $1. And what the data shows is that when you don't comply or undermine or insult an attacker, that is when they decide to escalate and continue the attack. So, and you see it all the time, when, whether it's a vagrant or an attacker or whatever it is, they're looking for the weak, gazelle in the herd, if you will, the person who is on their phone, the person who's got the coward shoulders, looking down, not paying attention. They don't go for the big, strong looking, proud chested, whether it's man or woman, person, because they don't want the fight. They want an easy target. We released a video. We did a video a couple weeks ago, and basically we mashed up a pedophile video testimony that after he was arrested, he was giving, and the prosecutors asked him, how did you choose your victims? And he said, I looked for the kids who had weak dads, the ones who were everything that I just said, on their phone, didn't look like they were strong, didn't look like they were aware, the ones who looked like they would not fight back. And basically, they had built a profiling, kind of system of who they were going to choose and not choose. And it makes sense. Like, if I'm going to give you $1 million and you get to pick who you're going to go fight, some random person, are you going to go for the big jacked up dude who looks like they could take your head off? And chances are that person's untrained, anyways, but just aesthetically, you think, oh man, this person's bigger and stronger than me. That's not an easy target. Or you go for like these two guys right here that are like dweeby looking, guys that don't work out, probably coward shoulders, have low confidence, low self-esteem, not paying attention in their cell phone, not paying attention to their kids. They're and like that's what these pedophiles, testified and said. And that's great information. And I've seen other reports from other criminals that say the same thing of how they pick their victims. And that's why it's so important to train, and again, train in anything that's going to give yourself the confidence. Now, we don't want a false sense of security. We want you to be able to do what you need to do if you have to. But like I said, 80% of the time, if you just carry yourself better, remove yourself from situations, know how to talk to people, try to, I don't like the word de-escalate, but try to de-escalate a situation or disengage from it, remove yourself from it. Like, you're gonna get so much further and not have to defend yourself. Because something that also people don't consider, armed and unarmed, you may have won the physical fist fight, but guess what? There's going to be a criminal lawsuit and there's going to be a civil lawsuit, because every trashy that's out there is going to get a lawyer and they're going to sue you because, that whatever it may be that you shouldn't have fought back. They're just trying to rob you to feed their kids or whatever the excuses are going to be. And that's going to cost you money. Even if you're 100% justified use of force, that's going to cost you money for that legal battle. And then for what? You're not going to win anything. It's just going to keep you out of jail, and it's going to end up in a settlement. And it's a lose-lose situation, So, that's why I said compliance is key. If you don't have to do anything, don't.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, Steve. We're out of time now, but you gave us a really good analysis.
Awesome.
Before you go, can you tell people again where they can find out more about your training?
Yeah, of course. We should come up first on a Google search, for self-defense in St. Louis. Our website is xkmstl.com. And then our firearms website is xtdstl.com. Anytime you're in town or in the area, swing through. We'd love to have you in for a free training session.
Alrighty. Sounds fantastic. Steve, thank you very much for your analysis today.
Of course.
All right, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's show. I've had a good time, and I hope you have too. Please don't forget to thank our sponsors, Center Shot Indoor Gun Range at centershotgunrange.com, shootingclasses.com to help you find the right trainer for your needs, Apple Tree Media for website security, and the United States Concealed Carry Association. For all your self-defense needs, go to uscca.com. All right, I've written 20-plus books, and they're all available on Amazon.com in paperback, ebook, and audiobook. This week, check out my novel, Stalking Natalie. I think you'll like it. And also check out the Home Defense Show videos on Rumble.com. And if you want training from me in person, then check out Midwest Tactical Training at shootingclasses.com. Please join us again next week for all your home defense needs. In the meantime, God bless and stay safe.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!